Yo guys, what is up? It is Heaven11 here today, and I'm bringing you 11 players who I think will have breakout 2019-2020 seasons. Starting off, I'll go from left to right, going from attack to the back. So starting off, I have on the left wing position, Ademola Lookman. In his 3 seasons for Everton, he had 7 goals and 4 assists and 39 appearances for the club. And when he went out on loan last season from January to June, he went out for the side RB Leipzig. And he had 5 goals and 3 assists, which was looking like his most prolific, even half season that he'd ever had. And so I think he's very well suited off in the German game, going back to RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig youth academies seem to be very good at producing good young talent who goes on and or just produces in the Bundesliga for them. And so I feel he'll have a really easy time off there. And I feel it'll be very beneficial for him in his career, as he won an under-20 World Cup, and he definitely needs to recover that form after being not maybe given the most chances at Everton. Next, we move on to Breel Embolo at the striker position. In 53 appearances for Schalke, he scored 11 goals and assisted 2, as he has moved to Mönchengladbach for around 9 million, I've heard, from Transfermarkt. And he's looking to recover his early prolific promise when he was still at Basel. And Mönchengladbach kind of need that goal scorer. They lost Thorgan Hazard to Dortmund, so it'll be very beneficial for them to find a goal scorer to go along up front there for them. He had a decent looking out World Cup, but he hasn't really shown any of that promise he showed at Basel, and I feel him moving to another German side, maybe lower down in the table, or just even with Schalke, could do him a lot of good. It kind of takes the pressure off his shoulders. It's new change of scenery, and it could be a very good change for him, and I feel it'll be very beneficial for him to have this new move to Mönchengladbach. On the right wing position, we have Robert Skov. He has signed for Hoffenheim from Copenhagen, and he is a very shot-heavy right winger. He performed really well at the Under-21 World Cup this summer. He is a taller winger. He's about 6 foot, when most wingers tend to be shorter, about like 5'9", 5'10". But he still is a fairly good player out on the wide wings. He has good pace, and he obviously takes lots of shots, which will help him in the long run and when he is at Hoffenheim. And I feel the move to Germany was the right move for him. He had kind of shown flashes, but he hasn't really announced himself yet, and I feel this will be the year he really announces himself, as he completed 2 key passes per game and 1.7 interceptions for the Danish side in the tournament, which shows he's a very attacking and defensive recovery sort of guy, which bodes really well for him in his career. And I could see him having a lot of promise if he continues up those numbers. Now we move on to the midfield, and starting off in the cam position, we have Miguel Almiron for Newcastle United. In 68 appearances for the MLS side, Atlanta United, he scored 22 and assisted 19 with 80% pass succession rate. So he's a really good controlling player who is a very strong attacking presence. And Newcastle is really desperate for someone who can control the ball in the midfield, but also be an attacking force for them, because who knows if Joe Wellington's going to work out, and so they might need that goal-scoring presence, which Almiron really does have. He got a knock after arriving in January, but his new attacking options in Joe Wellington, as I've mentioned before, and Saint-Max Min, look to be very beneficial for his help in just creating more chances for the Newcastle side that will need a lot of chances this year if they are to stay up. Now we move on to a center mid position. We have Oliver Torres, the ex-Atletico Madrid youth prospect. He has joined Sevilla from Porto and looks to make his old Spanish club rue their decision of selling him in the first place. In 88 games for Porto, he scored 5 times and assisted 8, but he held an 81% passing rate across all competitions in those years with him. He also had a 1.13 dribbles per game and 1.85 tackles per game, with a 0.82 interceptions a game. So he's a good defensive option with good attacking presence. He doesn't maybe get all the assists, but he has good passing, so he outlets the attacks, and he comes back on defense. He's not like he leaves his defense out to dry, which is very good for a Sevilla side who look to replace a missing Paulo Sarabia, who has moved to PSG. And he looks to be a really solid player, and he wasn't very expensive for him, around 11 million according to Transfermarkt. And he should be very cheap and effective for him, and it should pay off for them in the long run. Now we jump back to the Bundesliga as we look at Christopher Nkunku. The ex-PSG midfielder looks to join Lookman and grow his game in Germany with Leipzig. In 42 appearances in the last 2 seasons for PSG, he had 7 goals and 2 assists with 0.5 key passes per game, and 0.85 dribbles, and an impressive 91.6% passing percentage. So he's a really good passer, and he's not afraid to take on defenses. He also looks to be very effective in transition, as he has solid pace and he does a great passing ability. So, I mean, if he can hold his passing abilities, he should team up with Campbell and Forsberg in the midfield over there, and he should go out very nicely with them as he looks to team up with Lookman and Werner for the attacks. The German side will also be using his youth, his passing and shooting abilities to transform his game during the season after a $12 million move to the German outfit. And now we start our look at the defense. We have Theo Hernandez, the brother of Luca Hernandez, who has moved to Bayern this summer. His younger brother is also on the move. He has gone to AC Milan after a season-long loan in Real Sociedad from Real Madrid. In 24 appearances on loan for Real Sociedad, he had 1 goal and 2 assists. He won 0.9 aerials and 2.3 tackles and 1.4 interceptions per game, with another 0.8 key passes and 1.8 dribbles per game. So he's a very solid defensive player. His height's not the very best, but he's also an outside back, so it doesn't really affect him too much, and he clearly has the aerial percentage to show that he's not always going to lose those aerial battles anyways. He's a good attacking option as well. He probably will make a lot of really good runs in behind the attacking options for AC Milan, and he'll create chances for them. And he looks really solid for him, and it'll be a good addition. He's a younger player, and they should look, as they try to rebuild their former glory days, he should be a very centerpiece in that. He has really good pace, which will help them in their transition, and he has really solid defensive abilities. So he'll be nice in lockdown when he is back on defense, and he should show to be a very good coup for them. Now we move to the center mid position, where we have Cristante Mancini. After having a very impressive season with Atalanta, he looks to set pace at Roma for another great season. I felt that at Atlanta, yes, he was impressive, but news articles were still very limited on him. He didn't have as breakout of a season as he maybe could have in the Atlanta side. But despite that, he completed 2.4 aerials per game with 1.4 tackles and 1.6 interceptions with 2.3 clearances, while scoring 5 and assisting 2 in a very standout season at Atlanta. He was clearly a very good defensive player for them, and he looks to continue that form at a Roma that lost Manolas, so he looks to be the replacement for Manolas, as he only is coming in on loan, but could prove that he is the right man and should get a very good transfer fee if he continues to impress. Mancini will hopefully be the heart of that defense. I hope he doesn't have to sort of sit and wait for his chances. I feel he was clearly good enough to play at an Atalanta side that was already really strong, and so this shouldn't be any different for him. It should be a very solid, comfortable season for him again in Italy. Now we move into the other center back position. We have Joachim Andersen. In 39 appearances for Sampdoria, the Danish center half had an impressive 88.1% pass success rate, well holding on to 1.2 tackles and interceptions per game, so both stats he had 1.2 on per game, and with 5.2 clearances a game and 2.35 aerials, 1 per game. He is a very solid defensive unit, and Lyon could really use another really solid defensive half to go with their already strong side as they look to try and push PSG. He is a defensive rock who can play the ball around and looks to be very set to take on Lyon this season after helping them with an impressive season in Sampdoria last season. His stats are really good. It's hard to argue when you're winning 2.35 aerials a game. And he's a tall guy as well. He's 6'3" and 198 pounds, so he's a very solid defensive player. And he has a bit of pace to round off his game, which is at least very good when you are 6'3" and you're trying to play defense for a side that tends to be more attacking focused. You could tend to have to play back a bit. And so I feel this move was very beneficial for him, and it should prove to really put his name out there for Europe's top sides. Now into the right back position, we have Paul Lirola. The Spanish defender has impressed but never stood out in his time at Sassuolo. In 87 appearances for them, he had 3 goals and 10 assists with 1.4 tackles and 1.2 interceptions and 0.87 aerials, 1 per game, while also including great passes as he had 0.8 key passes per game and a 74.1% success rate in his time there. He looks to be the creative and solid player in the Sassuolo defense this upcoming season and looks to build on his impressive 2018-19 campaign before a bigger club notices his ability at right back position. He seems like a very solid player. It didn't seem like he had too many errors last season, and I feel like although you have a good season, you can always build on that season. I feel that's what he should really try and capitalize on this year at Sassuolo. They had an alright season, and I feel if he elevates his game, it should look really good. Even if the club doesn't quite elevate, he should really look to impress. And lastly, we move into the goalkeeper position, where we have Pau Lopez. He had 10 clean sheets, which was tied for 4th in La Liga last season in 35 games, with a 0.52 goals conceded per 90, and then the 6'2" shot stopper looks to be set to take on a new number 1 role at Roma. Roma kind of desperately needed a keeper after they lost Alisson. They tried to replace him, but it didn't quite work out, so they're now looking to just replace him all in all with a very solid Spanish goalkeeper who I feel should really do the business. He should get the job done for him, and he should be their new number 1 right off the bat and should be very impressive here for him. This is the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you agree with any of the 11, let me know down below. If you want to see another part 2 to this, I probably could find another 11 players pretty easily on how to do this again. If you guys want me to follow up with this at the end of the season and check in how my players' predictions did at the end of the season, I will gladly do that. I would be very interested to see if my predictions came right this year, if they had very impressive seasons. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.